So, to the untrained eye, what we've got here are some kind of rough old bits of some dark brown wood. But of course you and I, we know differently. What we have in fact got here is the most coveted tone wood of them all, Brazilian rosewood. I've had these pieces for literally decades, and I kind of feel a responsibility to do something beautiful with them. So welcome to my next series of videos, Archtop number 3. Well, I've prepared the sides and they are absolutely beautiful. So now I've got to bend them. Now these days there are various ways of bending the sides, shaping sides. Some people are doing laminated sides, using heat blankets, all that kind of thing. But I must admit I prefer to use a traditional bending iron. And really I think I'd feel less aloof here if I didn't use one of these. The whole kind of magical process of getting a rigid piece of wood, adding heat and moisture and then bending it to the sides of an instrument is real kind of alchemy and magic, and I get a kick out of it every time I do it, and particularly when you use some woods like ebony, rosewood, etc. Woods you think actually you shouldn't be able to bend this, and you end up making the rim. It's absolute magic. So that's what I'm going to do now. So this is half of my external mould. So the aim is to bend the side so it sits within that curve. The bending iron is hot, so that gives you a measure of how hot it is. The side's been in soak for about an hour or so. There's a side. You might be able to see there's some pencil marks on there. That's just to help me orientate which way round I'm going to bend it. So I'm going to start with this curve here where the body blends into the neck. Right, so let's apply a bit of pressure. Gently apply the pressure, moving it around. You might be able to hear the water sizzling. The bending iron itself is this kind of irregular ellipse. No, irregular egg. And the idea being that you've got differing curves to suit your shape. So every now and then we'll take that off and compare it to the mould, and then when you're happy, move on to the next bit. All the time comparing it to the mould, looking where the next part of the bend's going to be, and I've got a white pencil just to mark where I think I've got to bend it, although truth be told I kind of always pretty much remember. You know, you look at the grain and you think, right, that's where I've got to do it. When you're doing this, it's advisable not to put your hand on the bending iron. What I'm noticing is that a lot of the resin is sticking onto the bending iron, and the wood's actually slipping on that resin. So I'm just, although the iron's a bit hot to handle, just try to clean off some of that before I continue with bending. Oh yeah, that's better. So you could feel it slipping around on a film of resin. Don't know if you can see, but there's the resin coming out through the pores in the wood. Now that second side is more or less fitting in the mould. but when I look at it, there are little gaps, which you probably can't see. I think I need to bend it a tiny bit tighter there, a little bit here. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to, having bent it and getting it more or less in the mould, I'm just going to go around and tweak it so that it's a really as good a fit as I can possibly have it. Because what you don't want is any tension in the sides. You don't want to force the sides into the mould. You just want them to be able to sit there. You're trying not to build tension into the rim of the instrument. So as I say, a little bit there. So I'll mark it with a white pencil so I know where to go. Little tweak on the iron. And of course, once you've bent one bit, a little bit more, tweaked it, it distorts everything else. So I can now say, yeah, I'm happy that that bit's done, but I just got to move a little bit further on and bend that bit a bit more. Well, there we are. That Brazilian rosewood, didn't want to bend without putting up a fight, but man versus wood, and man won again, fortunately. So 24 hours or so on, I've cleaned up the sides with a cabinet scraper and some abrasive paper, and then degreased them with some methylated spirits, so that inside is all clean. Any of the residue of the burnt resin has from the bending process has gone. I've just glued in place the towel block. I always use a piece of plywood for that, so that you don't have any danger of it splitting when you put the screws in for the towel piece. And of course, you've also got to drill a large diameter hole through it if you want to put a jack socket in for a transducer. So that's drying. Once that's set, I shall shape the neck block. So this will be sanded to fit perfectly into this area, and that will be glued in. And I've used Brazilian mahogany for that, and I've also used Brazilian mahogany for the linings. Well, as you can see, I've started gluing the solid linings in place. I've just glued the second strip on this side. I'm just about to glue the second strip on this side. Each one's bent individually on the bending iron. That curve is gradually changing as you get closer towards the centre, so you need to bend them to fit, because as I said before, you don't want to force anything in, build any tension in the rim. So drop of tight bond, and shimmy that in there. It's a relatively snug fit. Make sure that it's aligned just by feel, really, top and bottom. Wipe off a bit of that excess glue and apply clamps liberally. That's it. Any excess glue we can wipe off at this stage. So essentially what we've got is 5mm of mahogany laminated onto the sides. So here we have then the completed rim. The neck block, I've cut out the mortise there for the neck, the double thickness mahogany linings which give this incredible stiffness to the rim, the plywood towel block there, the decorative end graft, and I guess most importantly this beautiful Brazilian rosewood. Really like that. So there you go, the completed rim.